Hi everybody, this is Kevin Inglin. I have Daniel, my son, behind the camera. Today is March 17th, last week of winter. Spring is, I believe, Tuesday. Next week we're at hive site number 3. And we're going to go in for our first spring inspection. You can see the bees are very active today. They have a lot of pollen coming in. The foragers are out working. It's a beautiful sunny day, 65 degrees. And I have the smoker lit. And my objective today is to go in and see what the queen is doing, make sure we have some good patterns, and then to move this hive a couple feet over here to our new pad site. So let's get started with that. I'm going to give the bees a little smoke here. Also have some winter equipment on here that we'll probably take off. We'll see what it looks like inside. We have 2 deep boxes. This was a honey box that I had left on the hive. For the winter, they didn't pull it down, so I left it for them. This had sugar candy in it because the hive was a little light at the end of spring because it's been so warm. And this insulation box will probably leave on here for them. So I'm gonna get the smoker going here and give them a little bit of smoke. Just let them know I'm coming. A little entrance up here too, so we'll put some smoke in that. Notice I have gloves on. I know the new nature of things is that they prefer you to be barehanded. I just absolutely do not like to be stung on the hands, and I do a lot of typing in my job, and anytime I get stung and my fingers get swollen, it becomes a week's worth of aggravation. So these provide, their nitrile gloves, enough dexterity for me that I can work with the bees and be very careful not to pinch and squish. But the bees don't particularly like this material. They'll land on it, but they don't sting through it. They can, of course, because it's so thin, but you know, I find it's the best trade-off of not going barehanded. This hive was a swarm hive that we got from our hives last year. Tends to be a little more assertive than the other couple, so make sure that I wear a bee suit with it. Don't want to be tripping over that, so I'm going to put it on the far side so I don't keep kicking it. I'm looking in here at my sugar box. We put it on here in case they needed it, and I see one bee up in here taking sugar, and just about all the sugar that we gave to them is still up inside. So I'm just going to put a quick little bit of smoke down in here, let them know I'm coming. I'm going to work with a purpose, but I'm going to be very gentle and try not to jostle the hive too much. You can see how much sugar is left, so they didn't touch this at all. I want to be careful not to lean over the hive and alarm the bees, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just peeking down in. And I see a lot of drawn out comb, a handful of bees. I do see some honey in here. One thing I'm going to do this year is I'm running a 10 frame configuration, and I want to pull one of the frames out and go with a 9 frame. So I'm looking down here and I see that this frame looks pretty good. I don't see bees on it. I'm actually going to pull this one out of this super, and then it'll give me what I have here is drawn comb, and when we put this in here, this was loaded with honey and there's not a drop in it. So certainly they have used all the fuel out of the top of this box and pulled it down into the chamber. So now I'm going to take a peek. There's not a lot of bees in here. Anybody that was up top looks like they went down, so I'm actually just going to crack this box off. The This is the first time these boxes have been opened since they got sealed up in November. You can hear the propolis seal, and one of the reasons why you don't want to be digging in your boxes too early is you start breaking that seal, and it tends to compromise their ability to insulate the hive. So now that it's going to be warmer each day, with forecasts of 65, 70 for the remainder of the week and into next week, it's okay now to start breaking these hives down and see what's going on for your spring. What I did is I popped the top box off, I put a little smoke in there, I closed it down. Again, letting them know I'm coming back in. Now one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring my inner cover over and set it here. When I pop the box off and I do start to do any of my inspections, I could put the inner cover over and kind of keep the hive covered. And that way the bees like it dark, they don't like all the light. And maybe they'll be less aggravated with me. So a little bit of smoke went in. I'm going to take this honey super and set it off over here. Look underneath it. You can see here's a frame, has a little bit of honey left. These are New World Carnelian bees, so they tend to be really good with their stores, and they've gone through the winter and they still have stuff left over, so pretty good for them. Again, some excess honey, so putting the sugar on top was probably not necessary, but again, when the hive is a little bit light, just as an insurance policy, you could put it on. If they need it, they'll take it. If they don't, they won't. This one frame is propolized to the other one quite a bit, so, and it's also got some bridge comb in there, so I'm trying to be very careful with it. This is the bridge comb. This comb was attached to the other one before, and this is an absolutely empty frame, nothing on it but a couple bees. And hi, Sharon.
Hello. How's it going?
Going good.
Looks good?
Yeah. So what I'm looking in for here is just to see what's going on inside, and I could tell you right now that there's hardly any bees whatsoever in this top box, and there's just empty frames of comb. Nobody up here on the frames looking at me, and there's no bees at all on this box whatsoever. Got to be careful where I'm putting my fingers. You can see I'm pulling them out, and there's just a handful here and there. I have one bee inspecting me, you see that? So now as I get in and I tend to be a little more invasive, they haven't seen me at all this season, they're going to start taking a look at me, give me a little bit of a warning. You see this one kind of buzzing me. I'm okay with that, I got my full suit on. Just put a little more smoke in to make sure that any signal going through to come and alarm is going to get masked. And what I'm doing here is I'm just looking to see what's in these frames, and as you can see, I'll walk on over to you. There's nothing going on. They're absolutely blank. So this entire box was full of honey. The entire box, the entire dome over top of the bees, full of honey when we went into the winter season, and it is completely empty right now. So whatever they had was just these couple little frames of honey down here, and that's it. So tell you, They're definitely in need of a good nectar flow now because they have no stores from that standpoint. And again, this hive was one that started in the middle of last year. It was a swarm that we took off a tree over here. It didn't really get totally built out, but we were going to put it in here and see if it was going to make it. I mean, you could see even here they have a frame of plastic that we gave them. They didn't even build it out. It's completely empty. So, but we expect now when we get to this period of spring and start to get into the nectar flow that these bees will really take off here. So we're going to do one more little smoke here, and then I'm going to pop this box off and let's go take a look and see what's going on down below. Smoker is going to town today. It's the middle of the day here, about 1:30, 2 o'clock. The bees that are going to defend the hive, the foragers, are kind of out. What we'll have in here is middle-aged bees, and we'll also have nurse bees. And those bees are the ones that they're pretty much in tune to whatever job they have in the hive. Some of them have the ability to defend the hive, but for the most part, they shouldn't be too aggressive, where if I came in here at the end of the day when the sun was going down and the foragers were back, they would be more aggressive towards defending the hive. I still see a little smoke wafting out. I had some bees standing looking at me on top of the frames. I'm just going to smoke them down. I'm going to mask their pheromone if they're releasing some alarm pheromone, and just let them kind of settle down in here before I go in and take a look and see what's going on. Now there's no bees on this box, so I have to assume that the queen's going to be down in here, and we'll take a look and see if we can find her. And then we're going to pick this box up and put it over on our new platform over there. So let's see what we have going on in here. Now this is the difficulty of a 10 frame setup, so to speak, is that this outside frame is going to be pretty tight. Difficult to roll this out without getting those bees rolled against the outside. A lot of beekeepers will tell you, and I'm going to do it here, is to take the second frame and you have comb against comb, so hopefully you're not rolling the bees. So let's see what we got here. I made a little bit of room. Taking my time, making sure I don't pinch or squish any bees. A lot of noise in this hive, and I don't see any sign of brood, so I have to wonder if I'm queenless. There's a little bit of honey store. And it's an empty frame. I'm not going to use this frame. I'm going to go to 9, so I'm just going to shake these bees off and flick whoever's left. I'm going to set this over here. Outside frame, nothing but drawn comb. little honey stored here. Quite a bit of pollen. I don't see any brood. Let me look and make sure I don't have the queen on here, and I'll walk the frame over. Okay, no queen, so I'll walk this over. You can see they got a little honey up in this part where it's capped off white, and then a little bit of pollen. And you see these bees are heads down. That's because I smoked them. They think that the forest is on fire. They're going to engorge on honey in case they have to leave the hive. And on this side, which was the outside side, you can see it just has a little bit of pollen and a little bit of honey. And for one of the outermost frames, not too surprising that this is what it should look like. Excuse me, girl. Okay. Now here I found a little bit of brood, and I have larvae, and with brood there is the probability or possibility that the queen is going to be on here. I'm going to take my time and make sure I take a look. And she knows I'm coming, I'm sure. She's indicated the smoke, and she's felt the vibrations, and a lot of time the queens get very shy and they walk off or go somewhere. So, but these are nurse bees. They're looking after what they have going on, and I do not see the queen on this frame yet. I'll walk this one over to you, and I'm going to take a look at it myself. So here you go, Danny, take a look at that. What do you see on there? What do you see, Danny? Describe it to me.
You got some honey over here.
Yeah.
Put my hands on it.
You can point. On. They're not gonna have a problem with you.
Got some honey over here.
Yeah.
Looks like larvae over there.
Yeah.
And then those are.
How's that brood pattern look? It's pretty solid. It's got a couple spots here and there, but for the most part, you see a consistent, solid pattern, right? Now, when you look at it, what's on the outside of the brood over here? Larvae, right? So that means the queen is still laying. She's been in here not too long ago. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second and take a look and see if I can find any eggs. I did not see, well, do I? I do see some egg area. So what you're looking for here, and I'll talk to Danny for a sec because he's a new beekeeper and we're showing him. You're looking for the shiny cells in the bottom, right? And what you're going to find there is that's the juice, for lack of a better description, that they're going to lay the eggs in and they're going to grow. And if you look from these mature larvae out, you'll see that they get smaller and smaller, and you actually can see some eggs in there. So we do have what appears to be a laying queen, and that's the important part. Now typically you'll find a brood pattern like this, and right surrounding it will be the pollen that they're going to use to feed this brood. And then up in the corner they'll have their honey stores. And this little ring that you see around the brood will continue to push out until they have the frame. Now a typical pattern is you see the brood off of this side of the frame and honey stored up in the corners, but that's not how they're operating this frame. So keep getting in my own shadow here. Alright, I'm going to go back, put these girls back. So the fact that I see larvae, that's good news. That means we have to have a queen in here within the last number of days, depending on how old the larvae is. And here I have another full frame of brood. A lot of pollen stored around its outside. Gonna look for a queen. And I don't see her. Bless you. Similar to the other one, you see a lot more pollen in this one. Hoping to find the queen, but she's being elusive so far. Of course, all this time I'm spending describing this, it is possible that she's kind of walking off and keeping away from me. This frame looks exactly like the one we just looked at before, lots of brood. What I'm not noting in here is a lot of drone brood at all, and I don't see any drones so far. Oh, there's the drone brood. I knew we would find some somewhere. No queen here. Here, come look at this, Danny. Look at this bee right here. See the color of the pollen?
Yep.
Bright red. Not sure where she got that, but that's pretty cool. Now I want to show everybody, this is drone brood. If you look here, you see some of this brood is a little bit bigger and bullet shaped. That's where the boys will come from. So they're working on that, and you can see they have bright yellow pollen that they're bringing in. Danny's been at college and he's been sneezing like crazy from his allergies. We need to send him back with some honey. It's been a while since I smoked these girls, and they're being pretty good. Now what I'm doing is I am gonna try and find a queen here, so I'm gonna look through on every frame. It's possible that she snuck down in the box. Not see her here. It should be noted I don't have my glasses on, so that doesn't help matters. I took them off. These girls are getting a little agitated with me, so I'm just going to give them a little smoke. Sorry, squeezed one. She buzzed underneath me. I took my finger off and she went away. So everything's okay there. And these outer frames, as expected, they just have pollen and honey on them. So didn't find the queen. It's possible that she's down in here under the box, running around somewhere trying to stay away from me. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this hive together, close the 9 frames up, and I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to move it over in an adventurous way. So let me smoke them a bit. Get them down off the top. I don't want to squish any, so what I do here is I set the one edge on. And I just let it be. This is going to be interesting, and it's not something I'd recommend you do, but I'm going to take my chances. I'm just going to pick the box up, put it over there, pop this box off, and put it on the other inner cover. See, a lot of bees are out right now. I'm only going a couple feet here, so I think I'm going to be okay. Never done this before, so we're going to find out whether it's a good idea or bad. But here we go.
You gotta take it off the bottom board. Enough waiting.
I use solid bottom boards in the winter, just something that I do. And I'm putting them on a screen bottom board here for, I'll say that again, I use solid bottom boards in the winter, it's just something that I do. I use screen bottom boards here in the springtime, so I'm going to put my boxes back together. Now I have to wonder if I want to just put the honey super on and be done with it, which I think I'm gonna. Here's an interesting dilemma. On this last frame here, I don't know, maybe it's seen better this way. It looks like the comb has stuck to the outside of the box and it's turned sideways inside the box. So I'm going to pry it away and get what I can out of it, but I'm probably going to pull that frame and replace it with another one. I'll come back later, but let me show you what happened here. This frame, for some reason, the top popped out and was laying against the outside edge of this box, and the bees waxed it to the thing. So I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to take my other frame. I'm going to put it back in here. So the last thing that I'm going to do here, and I'll take 2 frames and show it to you. When you have these frames, you want to maintain the bee space. So you're going to put these frames together like this. Now you can see I had these spread out a little bit last year so that they would build these a little bit deeper, and they don't necessarily maintain the bee space. But the good news for me is when I go to extract this from a honey standpoint, I can take a knife across the top and it sticks out just enough and it cuts the capping off. So when I set these boxes together, down below, in order to maintain bee space, I have all the frames put in tight together, but up here they're spread apart just a little bit so I can get them to build that out a little further. Now I'm going to maintain it in the center of the box. Some people like to push them all over one way if they run 9 frames. To me, what I'm doing is creating insulation on both sides of the frames. So I'm going to set it up that way. I don't know which way is good or better, so we'll find out. This is my first year I'm going to run 9 frames in a hive. Got a lot of girls here clustered together. I'm going to put them down here on the entrance, so just kind of, they'll go back inside. All I'm doing is just scraping and shaking them off. And you can see they almost all went right back inside. So
You pinned one.
Knew it was here somewhere. So interesting, all the bees in the bottom box, they have empty up top. Typically what you do in the springtime is you'll find them coming up into the honey dome in the wintertime, and you'll want to reverse the box. These bees are already down in the bottom, so I'm good to go. They got storage up here to put whatever they want, including the nectar flow when it breaks. And I left them a honey super, and as long as they can defend the hive, they'll be good to go. Now I see one thing that I need to do. I don't have my mouse trap on anymore, and I'll probably have to cut some slots in order to get my mouse guard on. I typically leave that on all year. So I'm happy to have, my hive's a little shaky here. Have to put a shim underneath it. When I built this platform, I built it with a little tilt, so I don't have to shim the base up anymore. It actually has the right amount of tilt, so if the rain falls here, it doesn't run to the back of the bottom board. You want to have your hive have a little bit of a tilt in the floor so that any moisture that falls on the landing board doesn't go in and collect at the back of the hive. So that's it. This hive's ready to go for spring. Let me make sure I match up these boxes well, and I'll put the lid back on top and we'll be good to go. So thanks for watching, and we're going to go get to our other 2 hives now. I'm going to talk real quickly about what I just did. I moved that hive over there onto the stand from this platform. What I wanted to note from an observation standpoint is all the bees oriented to this particular spot. You see these bees here, they're all coming back. They don't know where the hive is. They're landing, they're all confused. They're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. In a typical situation when you want to move a hive, the bees will orient literally to a spot. You want to cover the bees or take them when they're closed up and put them where they're going to be, and then put some sort of debris or whatever next to the hive, or leave them sealed for a period of time so that after, say, 3 or 4 days, when they emerge, they'll come out and reorient to the sun. Here I'm taking a chance that the hive is so close that if they cannot figure out where to go, that the next best occasion for them is to go over there, and they're going to realize that's their hive. Now I have a hive sitting probably about 25-30 feet over to our right here. I'm going to move that hive over here to another platform at some point, and when I do that one, I'll follow a different procedure. But for this one, I just picked it up and moved it, and I have to assume that these bees at some point will figure out that's their home.